Hello, thank you so much for joining today. Today's topic is boosting critical app performance with network assessment. My name is Nazanin Younisi. I'm just going to give us to 11:03 to see how many people are able to join, and then we'll kick off the demonstration. For those of you just joining, we're just going to give it till 11:03 to kick off the demonstration and give enough time for everybody to join. Okay, well, let's get started. So today our topic is boosting critical app performance with instant network assessment. So what I mean by this is your organization equipped to proactively address potential issues before they impact users and disrupt business processes? This demo is going to explore how we continuously assess for critical applications and can optimize performance, prevent outages, and enhance overall system reliability. So how we go ahead and do that is by creating the best automation and most easiest to use automation library in your network environment. Now, these automation can be used for things like outage prevention, diagnosis automation, application assurance, network security, and protective change. So for today's demonstration, we're going to be talking about application performance primarily. However, I do encourage you to check out the other bi-weekly webinars that we do have to explore the other capabilities in this series. Now, how we're able to achieve that is by creating a really great automation library. So being able to troubleshoot our workflow, assess our workflow, and change our workflow, we're able to use this really great automation library. And our idea of this is the best way to create automation that caters to your environment is to enable you to create your own automation and your own automation library. And that way it can be very specific and very granular to your current pain points and your use cases. So this is going to be built from your knowledge. And today I'm going to demonstrate how we can do that as well. Now, your automation library, and I kind of touched on this a little bit already, you're able to use it for each problem incident. So how that's applied to problem incidents is being able to use your auto diagnosis, essentially have NetBrain trigger off an existing ticket or a monitoring alert, and then be able to automatically start diagnosing, running those preliminary checks, and allowing for collaboration through our collaborative workflow dashboard. We're also able to do network-wide continuous assessments across your environment. So ensuring the integrity of your environment and continuously running these assessments and empowering you to run your own assessments instead of outsourcing them or spending a lot of time and resources manually pulling that information. And then also using it for change. So being able to discover impact, auto-validate your pre and post checks, and continuously protect. And more importantly, it's just really great for a documentation process of what exactly occurred within the change. So that's just going to talk on that a little bit. And then with that, I'm just going to go ahead and jump straight into the demonstration. Now, if you have any questions during the course of the demonstration, I do encourage you to use that chat window or the Q&A window that should be inside the Zoom session somewhere, and I'll make sure to get to those questions and answer as many questions as possible at the end of the demonstration here. So what we're looking at here is an example of our daily network assessment. So I am going to get into the application, but first I want to talk and kind of show and glance over this daily network assessment dashboard. So on the left here, we have our top end charts. I love this because this is going to show a list of devices with the amount of alerts associated to that specific device. So why this is important is because, one, you can assess the trend and see which one of your devices have the most human traffic, errors, logins, things like that, most changes occurring on it. But it's also a very good visual representation. So what I mean by this is if you have a P1S1 issue and I come over to this dashboard and I see a device with 398 errors, chances are that's where I'm going to start my diagnosis process. And that's without even clicking anything, running anything. I could visually see that representation of that device and that problem, and I can begin my troubleshooting process. Now, as promised, let's go ahead and take a look at this application and network dependency. So you can see that this is set to refresh every day at 6 a.m. You can set the time frequency to whatever you need it to be based on your specific use case or your specific need for your organization. And in this instance, we're looking for ERP applications. So we're able to check for things like reachability check, failover checks, interface error checks, quality of service check, and device CPU and memory check. Now, if you see on the left here, we're also able to separate this via site. So here we're able to group our devices. So if you're a global company, you're able to separate this via different regions. So US East, Boston Data Center, Global Core WAN, Distribution WAN, New York Data Center, and things like that. Now, if I'm an engineer, and let's kind of go into a scenario. If I'm an engineer and I'm looking at this, I could see very quickly, okay, I have 99 errors on an interface error check. So this is a big issue for me, right? So I want to go ahead and start the diagnosis process. So what can I do to go ahead and jumpstart this diagnosis? This is what I love about these dashboards, is because it's not only giving me a red or a green. If I click on this, I can actually see what exactly is going on in my device. So I'm not only knowing, okay, there's a problem, we're also knowing what is the problem. So I can click on this, very quickly see the series of checks that NetBrain has run, which is quite extensive. And if I scroll down and pull this up, and you just have to excuse me, I got to move the Zoom bar from sharing my screen here. And I could scroll this up and I can click on one of these and I can actually get a window into my problem. So I can actually see what's kind of going on here. I can see the error code. We're getting a lot of interface errors on which device, and it'll give me a list of those devices again. Sorry, I'm playing around with that Zoom bar here. And then I can also go to the problem. So I can hit view map and NetBrain will actually take me to that specific device on that specific map for that problem. Now, by having this continuously run, NetBrain will be able to locate your application issues a lot more efficiently. Now, why is this important? Because we want to be proactive. We don't want to be reactive. We don't want to wait for the storefront or someone at head office to call us and say, hey, there is something wrong with our application. We want to be proactive and see, okay, when something happens, I want to be notified. I want NetBrain to email me. I want NetBrain to, maybe potentially auto-generate a ticket for me if that's the path I want to go. Or you can just have it in our dashboard and be able to leverage it this way. So this is going to be a really great starting point for our diagnosis process. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and troubleshoot further as an engineer now, I can leverage our automation library by selecting this intent. And now, and I'm already on critical application issues, but just to give you an idea of what that automation library can look like, here we have a list of network-wide assessments, change assessment, config drift assessment, network health assessment, things like that, as well as our troubleshooting library. So this is what our network engineers have put together based on their belief or network organization's current use cases, pain points, and standards. So we've put these together ourselves. But for the sake of this demonstration, let's go ahead and run additional application checks. So let's go ahead and run, I want to do some output drops, and I also want to check, let's do critical application impact assessment. So I want to go ahead and do a little bit more granular checks here on this device. Now, while this is running, it's good to note that NetBrain is going to be able to help you run these series of checks on all the devices, and the scale at which it runs and how fast it's run is really incredible. And I always say you can bring your fastest typer to the table and they won't be able to run this amount of diligent checks across your environment in the short period of time that it takes NetBrain to do so. So it's going to be able to run these checks very quickly, and I'm actually going to open a diagnosis tree to just show you exactly how many checks NetBrain has just ran. I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. So that's actually opting to expand our map for that little bit more additional information. And you can see all of that diagnosis overlaid on the map. Let's open the diagnosis tree to actually see how many checks NetBrain has ran in those short few seconds. So really not only getting us to our resolution a lot quicker by being able to, because it's a machine, log into all of these devices and run these checks a lot quicker, but also simplifying our troubleshooting process significantly. So the idea is, we not only want to be proactive, we want to get to a resolution a lot quicker. Have NetBrain continuously look across my environment for these problems. I'll put it on the dashboard, and then let's diagnose it as quickly as we possibly can and be able to remedy that problem there. So this is how we can go ahead and use a dashboard in order to overlay this kind of information and troubleshoot quicker. But what if I want to go ahead and essentially create a dashboard, or I have an idea, how can I go ahead and create an application check or any kind of check in a dashboard form? So let's actually go ahead, and I opened this application path between a Boston app server and a database here in Tokyo. And let's actually go ahead and create an example of this automation and then actually put it into a dashboard so you guys can see the simplicity of this process. So if I wanted to go ahead and create one of those checks, like the ones I just ran, and I want to create a dashboard, we can very quickly do that by hovering over to this intent. And what I want to do is click on quick intent here. Now we can see that if I run, for instance, a show interface, NetBrain can very quickly replicate to those 6 devices and give me the output of that show interface command. So let's go ahead and click that there. And there we can get our output. But now what we want to do is we want to eliminate that stare and compare. We want to be able to parse for what we want to look for specifically. Now, we're super confident when we say no code, and this is exactly why. So let's go ahead and create a new parser and actually show you how we are no code. So here we have the output of that command, and we basically, let's go ahead and look for any kind of interface errors. So all I have to do, I don't even have to select or input anything to parse this information. All I have to do is click on the variables that I think are relative to my specific check. So here I want to go in and look for interface errors. So of course I have to select our interface. And now let's just give this a new name so it has some meaning. So let's call this Oh, I clicked something incorrectly here. Let's click this and then call this interface to give it some meaning. There we go. And now I want to look for instance. Let's go ahead and look for any type of MTU errors in my environment. So here I put MTU, and I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. And that's basically the gist of it. So now I'm able to say, okay, every time I run this, I want to go ahead and run a show interface and I want to look at the MTU. And now I'm able to define what I want the MTU to look like, otherwise raising an error. So what we could do here is we could call this crit app. And I'm just gonna, with a few quick steps, I'm gonna be able to set the variable and say, if MTU does not equal 1500, then I want to raise an error and say interface, and I put an I there, so let's do this again. Interface does not equal, or MTU does not equal 1500. And that's it. Now I could go ahead and you could do an else, and an else if and say otherwise. Let's just do it for the sake of this. Let's say otherwise, interface. We'll do the whole process so we get a nicer output. Interface MTU equals 1500. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and hit create. So absolutely no code was leveraged here. And this is going to be the basis. This is going to be the intent. We do have a ton of intents canned out of the box that you can use, but we do encourage you to create your own automation library like this so you can have the most customized and modular kind of dashboards when looking for your specific problem. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create here. And we're just going to go ahead and run this diagnosis across this map. And here you can see that we do have some issues on this specific device that we're able to find. So we were able to find some MTU issues here. Now, how can we go about adding this to a dashboard or creating this into a check? And basically going back to our daily assessment dashboard, how do I go about creating this dashboard? Well, let's first save this intent to the map. So let's save it to the map intent here. I'm going to hit OK. Now we're going to open this up and you can see that we have a new dashboard button. So let's actually click on this new dashboard button and see how many steps it actually takes to go ahead and create a dashboard. So step one, we're going to go ahead and create a dashboard. We're going to call it Crit App. And what I want to do this, I want to save this to my dashboards just to keep the hygiene of our demo environment. And now you can see that we are pulling the information from the specific map, from the specific intent, and I want to run it for the next, let's say 7 days. And let's go ahead and hit create. So here we can see the intent dashboard has been created. What I want to do now, and I'll drill down eventually and show you what the intent dashboard looks like, but I want to add it to a summary dashboard, right? So we're going to go ahead and create a new summary dashboard, and we're just going to give it the same name. We're going to call it Crit App. Crit App. And I'm going to save that to my dashboards, and we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Now I could go ahead and open that summary dashboard. But I just want to show you how quickly it's going to go ahead and generate that. And there you go, just in a number of seconds. Now I'm going to go back just to give it some context. I'm going to run this maybe once or twice again, just so there's some information overlaid in that dashboard. That way we don't have to wait for NetBrain to go in and run it. So we ran it 3 times. Now, if I go to this critical dashboard, and it's going to take a second to populate here. If I go into this critical dashboard, just to show you how we expand on it, if I hit this drop-down menu and I want to go to edit dashboard, I could go ahead and add a chart. And as simple as, and say we want to go ahead and run additional application and network dependency checks here, we have a different folder. I hit OK, I hit apply. It's honestly as simple as that. And you can continuously build on this dashboard accordingly based on your specific needs. And the idea is that over time, you will have something that looks similar to, and here's the errors here, similar to our daily network assessment dashboard. So really making it simple enough and easily digestible so we can empower your engineers to be able to create these for themselves and leverage the automation library themselves to kind of create something most useful for their specific use case. Now, if we go back here, we could see that we have, our check on our specific device for our output drops. Now I can go ahead and click on this intent dashboard. So that was that first one that it went and created, and we can drill down into this. And what we can find here is this: we ran it 3 times, right? So we have this historical value, we have the output of all 3 times. And where this is very helpful is if you have an intermittent or transient issue, maybe something occurred over the weekend or something occurred over the night, NetBrain is not only keeping retention of your device and your configuration information. Now we're actually able to keep retention of the automation assessment or intent output. So if NetBrain ran an intent or an assessment over the weekend and it found a specific error, and eventually it clears. So this could be things like CPU spikes, any kind of issue, or maybe the application was having some latency over the weekend. NetBrain will be able to pick up on that, retain that. And what happens here, if I go to this and I click on this, I'm actually able to go and view the device and view the map and view that configuration information or that diagnosis output information from that specific time and date. And what this is going to do is it's going to enable you to go in and troubleshoot or diagnose based on historical values, or at the very least be able to assess the trends. So when is this happening? Or is my application having latency a few times a day? Why is that happening? Maybe there's a database job that's running at the same time that's causing those types of errors. Now with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave this open here. And I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to ask any questions that you may have. I think we have one question. How do you define an application? So upon discovery with NetBrain, you will be able to define which one of your applications are critical and which are applications in your environment. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes for any other questions that may come in. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'd like to say thank you so much for joining the webinar today. We do have a lot more in this series, so I do encourage you to go ahead and check them out. And again, thank you so much for joining. And my name is Nazanin Younousi, and have a great day.